A young black American steps off the plane in Dar es Salaam, tears streaming down her face as she touches African soil for the first time. This isn't just tourism, family. This is homecoming. And it is happening at unprecedented rates across the continent. I am about to break down why this movement is reshaping both Africa and America in ways you've never considered. Welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into the stories shaping modern Africa. I am your host, and today we are re-exploring something powerful happening right now, the surge of black Americans making their first pilgrimage to the motherland. We're talking about real numbers, real impact, and real transformation on both sides of the Atlantic. From Tanzania's safari lodges to Zimbabwe's historical sites, from Botswana's wildlife reserves to Ghana's slave castles, black Americans are coming home. And it's changing everything. Let me paint you the historical picture first, because this isn't just about Instagram photos and vacation vlogs. For over 400 years, the forced separation of Africans from their homeland created what scholars call the African diaspora. An estimated 12.5 million Africans were shipped to the Americas as slaves, with millions more dying during the Middle Passage. For centuries, Africa was painted as the dark continent in Western media, a place of poverty, disease, and chaos. This narrative wasn't accidental, family. It was designed to make enslaved Africans and their descendants ashamed of their heritage. But something shifted in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement. Leaders like Malcolm X began connecting American black struggle with African liberation movements. Marcus Garvey's Back to Africa movement suddenly didn't seem so radical anymore. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing what I call the Great Return. Social media has shattered those old narratives. When a young sister from Detroit posts videos of Kigali's clean streets and modern infrastructure, or when a brother from Atlanta shares footage of Lagos's booming tech scene, it changes minds. Like this video if you're relearning something new, and help more Africans see this story by sharing it with your network. Now let's talk current numbers, because the data is staggering. Ghana alone saw over 200,000 African American visitors in 2019, before the pandemic. That is up 300% from a decade earlier. Kenya reported a 40% increase in black American tourists between 2018 and 2022. Rwanda, South Africa, Tanzania, they're all seeing similar surges. But here is what makes this different from regular tourism. The average black American visitor to Africa stays longer, spends more, and returns more frequently than typical tourists. They're not just visiting, they're reconnecting. The economic impact is massive. In Ghana, the Year of Return campaign in 2019 generated over $3.3 billion in revenue. That is billion with a B, family. But it goes deeper than money. We're seeing black Americans starting businesses in Africa, buying property, even relocating permanently. In 2021, Nigeria granted citizenship to over 500 African Americans. Senegal has streamlined its citizenship process specifically for the diaspora. These aren't just policy changes, they're recognition of a fundamental shift happening. The COVID pandemic actually accelerated this trend. When America showed its true colors during 2020, many black Americans started asking hard questions. Why struggle in a system that doesn't value you when you could build wealth and community in the land of your ancestors? Remote work made it possible. Suddenly, you could keep your American salary while living in Accra or Cape Town. Subscribe and hit the bell if you want to stay informed about this continental shift that mainstream media won't tell you about. Let me break down the key players making this movement possible. First, we have grassroots organizations like Black Travel Movement and Nomadness Travel Tribe, creating communities and resources for black travelers. These aren't just travel groups, they're cultural bridges. Then you have African government actively cutting diaspora investment. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo didn't just declare 2019 the Year of Return for marketing. He backed it with policy, making it easier for people of African descent to get visas, buy land, and start businesses. We're seeing influential figures leading by example. When celebrities like Ludacris gets Gabonese citizenship, or when Michael Jai White moves to Thailand then pivots to Africa for film projects, it sends a message. Social media influencers are playing a huge role too. Channels like Kenyan It and American in Nigeria aren't just entertainment, they rechanging perceptions one video at a time. The travel industry has responded. Delta launched direct flights from Atlanta to Johannesburg. United expanded routes to Accra. Airlines don't add routes without demand, family. They following the money, and the money is following the people going home. Educational institutions are getting involved too. Howard University has partnerships with African universities. The African Development Bank offers scholarships specifically for diaspora students. We're seeing a knowledge exchange that benefits both sides of the Atlantic. Now let's address the different perspectives, because this movement isn't without complexity. Some continental Africans worry about gentrification. In cities like Accra and Cape Town, the influx of diaspora money is driving up real estate prices. Long-term residents who struggled for decades suddenly can't afford their own neighborhoods. It is a legitimate concern that needs addressing. There is also the privilege question. The Black Americans making these trips often represent the more economically mobile segment of the community. A round-trip flight to Africa costs $1,000 to $2,000. That is not accessible to everyone. Some critics argue this return movement is elitist, leaving behind the very communities that need empowerment most. On the flip side, many Africans are celebrating this reconnection. In Ghana, there are entire communities dedicated to helping diaspora Africans settle. Traditional leaders are performing naming ceremonies, formally welcoming people home. This isn't just symbolism, it is healing generational trauma. Economically, the impact is overwhelmingly positive. Diaspora Africans aren't just spending money, they reinvest in it. They restarting schools, funding healthcare projects, launching tech companies. In Kenya, diaspora remittances now exceed coffee and tea exports combined. That is transformational money flowing into local communities. Young Africans especially appreciate the cultural exchange. When a Black American brings hip-hop production skills to Lagos, or when an African teaches traditional medicine to someone from Chicago, both cultures are enriched. We're seeing fusion cuisines, music collaborations, fashion crossovers that wouldn't exist without this movement. Subscribe for honest, Pan-African analysis you want to find on CNN or BBC. So what does this mean for Africa's future? We're looking at potentially the largest voluntary migration of people of African descent back to the continent in modern history. The implications are staggering. Conservative estimates suggest that if current trends continue, we could see 2 to 3 million African Americans visit Africa annually by 2030. Even if just 5% decide to relocate permanently, that is transformational. This movement is creating a new class of global Africans. People who maintain ties to both America and Africa, who can navigate both systems, who bring capital and connections across continents. This is soft power on a massive scale. When successful Black Americans choose Africa over Europe for their investments and relocations, it sends a message to the world about where the future lies. The tech sector is particularly exciting. We're seeing Silicon Valley veterans launching startups in Nairobi, Lagos, and Kigali. African fintech, agri-tech, and health tech are benefiting from this brain gain. Countries that position themselves well for this diaspora return could see accelerated development. Educationally, historically Black colleges and universities are establishing African campuses. African universities are creating programs specifically for diaspora students. We are rebuilding bridges that have been burned for centuries. This knowledge exchange could be the key to unlocking Africa's full potential. But challenges remain. Infrastructure in many African countries still lags behind diaspora expectations. Healthcare systems, internet connectivity, bureaucratic processes need improvement to accommodate this influx. Smart African leaders are already addressing these gaps, seeing diaspora return not as a burden but as an opportunity to accelerate development. The cultural impact might be the most profound. We're rehealing 400 years of separation. Children of slaves are walking the lands of their ancestors not as tourists but as family. That is powerful beyond words. This isn't just about individuals finding their roots, It's about rebuilding Pan-African identity for the 21st century. Look, family, what we're witnessing is historic. The voluntary return of diaspora Africans to the continent represents hope, healing, and unprecedented opportunity. Whether you, African American considering your first trip to the motherland, or you, continental African wondering about these new neighbors, this movement affects all of us. The Africa Rising narrative isn't just about Chinese investment or European partnerships anymore. It's about Africans, wherever they are in the world, choosing to invest in African futures. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure you resubscribe with notifications on because we're tracking this continental shift that will define the next decade. Check out this next video where we explore how African governments are competing for diaspora investment and what it means for ordinary citizens. The return is just beginning, and the implications will reshape both Africa and America for generations to come. Drop a comment below. Are you part of this movement? Have you made your pilgrimage home yet? Let's discuss how we can make this return beneficial for everyone involved.